Welcome to Java Space. In this video, we are starting a new series on Spring Data JPA. I'm gonna start as usual. I'm gonna start with some theory, and then as we go along, we will introduce some practical. So, what is Spring Data? So, Spring Data is an umbrella project which contains many sub-projects that are specific to a given database. And the role of Spring Data is to make it easy to use data access technologies. You have relational databases, you have non-relational databases, which they call them NoSQL, MapReduce frameworks, cloud-based data services. So these projects are divided basically into two main projects and community projects. And these projects are developed by working together with many companies and developers, helping to create all these exciting technologies. So the main modules, we have Spring Data Commons, we have Spring Data JDBC, Spring Data R2DBC, Spring Data JPA, and Spring Data MongoDB, Redis, Spring Data REST, Apache Cassandra, Apache Geode. Then you have Spring Data Key Value. So these are the main modules of Spring. Then we also have community modules, which we said that basically these companies or communities, they are just contributing to produce or to create these exciting projects. They are just listed here. So this comes from the Spring website. So in this series, we are going to focus on Spring Data JPA, which is this project, because it's one of the widely used modules in the Spring, family. And we are also not going to talk about JPA, because JPA is not a Spring technology. JPA is a specification from Java or Oracle, which is then implemented, or the implementation has been provided by many providers such as Red Hat, Oracle, Eclipse, all those providers. Red Hat is Hibernate, then Eclipse Foundation, then we have I forgot the other ones for Oracle. Those are JPA providers. So Spring Data JPA versus Hibernate. When I was still trying to learn Spring Data, I used to confuse it with Hibernate. I honestly didn't have any understanding of what is the difference between these two, and I'm thinking that maybe there are developers who still don't know what is the difference. That's why I want to clarify the difference. So Hibernate is a JPA provider by Red Hat. Spring Data JPA is a Spring project. And what does it do? It's a high-level framework that is built on top of Hibernate. And it provides a simpler and more streamlined API for working with JPA, Java Persistent Entities. So the purpose of Spring Data Repository abstraction is to lessen the amount of boilerplate code needed to execute data access layers for multiple persistent stores. So this is one of the selling point, or for Spring Data JPA. because you no longer need to do a lot of work writing queries and all that just to retrieve and manipulate data. So again, Spring Data JPA is not a JPA provider. It is a library or a framework that enhances an extra layer of abstraction on top of a JPA provider. So Spring Pivotal team decided that they were not going to create their own JPA provider because Hibernate is there and Hibernate is very powerful. So why duplicate efforts? Don't reinvent the wheel. So they then decided, let's make Hibernate our default JPA provider. That is why in the recent or latest Spring project, you're no longer required to specify Hibernate as your dependency in your project because it becomes a transitive dependency. If you have Spring Boot Starter Data JPA, Hibernate is automatically included for you. But Hibernate did not give Spring developers what they wanted. That's why they say Hibernate is there, but it's not giving us what we want. Let's build on top of it. Let's enhance it. So with Hibernate, you are still required to write a decent amount of boilerplate code to write basic queries. So, Spring is innovative and is obviously probably the best technology out there. So if you look at how they build Spring Data, you will see that these guys, they really mean business. So what are the features of Spring Data JPA? The first thing is they are reducing boilerplate code. You don't need to write a lot of code to process data, to query data in your database. Generation of queries based on method names. So just a method name, then it gets translated for you into a query. No code repositories. So these hide data store specific details. Imagine you just have to specify an interface which then derives or extends from a Spring repository. And there you go. You have a bunch of useful methods that are even implemented for you. You don't need to do anything. This is beautiful, guys, and thanks to Spring Data development team. They have done a nice job. You just have to extend either repository interface, CRUD repository, JPA repository, and then there you go. You have, you have everything you need. You don't need to write extra code. Spring will take care of writing the code, implementing the methods for you, and you just call the methods and data is retrieved for you. So we are going to see all these repositories that I talked about in the next videos as we continue with the series.